It takes balls for BMW to call their cars ultimate driving machine. It also takes same steel balls for Canyon to call one of their bikes and name it ultimate. Consequently, you've heard me say time and time again on this channel how Canyon Ultimate is one of my top 3 favorite bikes of all time. So is Canyon Ultimate as good as I remember it? Recently, I had a chance to mount up on this Canyon Ultimate CF SLX. Welcome to this episode. Grab some coffee, sit down, let's talk about it. Roll the intro. What's up, everybody? This is your boy DC coming at you again. Thank you for spending time with me today. I know there is a ton of better content available here on YouTube. You decided to spend your valuable time with the little old me, and I do appreciate. Now, having said that, please hit the subscribe button so that I know that there's somebody else when I'm talking to this camera that I could do this again and again. And hit the like button when you get a chance, and feel free to ask me any questions down below, as this channel is sponsored by my own damn wallet, although today's bike is a loaner from a very close friend of mine, but it is definitely brought to you by your engagement. This is not a demo press bike that I need to return. I don't have a dying magazine business where I need to chase advertiser money and grovel. I don't own a bike shop to sell you anything. I am not a douchey influencer to push you one way or another with some kind of an agenda. I am as normal as a guy can get. A lot of you will be able to smoke me on the next group ride on next Saturday, but I might have smoked to some of you last Saturday. Over the last dozen years or so, I had the privilege and pleasure to own and ride these bikes and put down of miles on the road. The reason why I mention this is because those bikes under my ownership in the past establish a baseline that I compare any bikes on these review episodes so that you know where I'm coming from. First, a disclaimer. This is not my bike. This is actually a bike that belongs to a very close homie of mine, Kevin. Kevin has been with me on very epic rides the last 10 years. Every time I felt like I was gonna die, I could turn around and Kevin would be right there dying with me. So Kevin, I thank you for letting me borrow your bike today. Now that all said, despite this not being my bike, I have a very intimate history with Canyon Ultima CF SLX. Back several years ago when Canyon actually yet wasn't doing business here in the States, I found out they actually do business in Korea. So I ordered the frame set of Canyon Ultima CF SLX, which was top of the line frame set at the time. This is before they had the CFR, the top dog today. So I ordered the frame set to my sister's place that's in Korea, and then my brother-in-law, when he flew over to the States for business, I had him bring it with him, so then I had it built up. So my Canyon Ultima CF SLX at the time was one of the very few, if not the only Ultimate at the time. And then under my ownership, along with my Cannondale Evos that I owned similarly around that time, the Ultima CF SLX of mine at the time had the most number of miles on the odometer along with the Cannondale Evo. I mean, we're talking several trips back and forth between LA and New York, equivalent distance that were put on that Canyon CF SLX. At the time of my ownership, that actually was one of the lightest frame set being produced, production frames. So set aside from like these one-off boutique frames, when you talk about big time manufacturers putting out, normal production frame sets, this was one of the lightest. I believe it was actually at the time beaten by Trek and Monda. So I had it built with the SRAM Force. I had no problem bringing that bike below 14.9 pounds UCI limit. Not that that matters because I don't race under UCI things, but with the carbon box rim wheels, this was a very light bike that I built. But the weight isn't everything. So Canyon road offering goes from the Canyon Ultimate, which is sort of a lightweight, do everything kind of a road racer bike. Then they have the Air Road, which is the all aero offering. Then they have the Endurace, which is a little bit more friendly geometry for more comfort oriented bike. And then when you talk about Ultimate, they come in a couple different trims. You've got the CFSL, which is the baseline carbon frame offering. Then you up the ante to CF-SLX, which is what you see here. And then on top of that, the top dog of the bunch is the CFR, Canyon Factory Racing. For all intents and purposes, the lines, the silhouette that you see from Canyon Ultimate really have not changed over several years. And I guess that's a proof. Why fix something that is not broken? The design still holds up quite nicely even today. Looks sleek, looks fast, looks clean. Just love the way this bike looks. And then to go along with that, you could actually see the design cue of the Ultimate carried through other bikes in their lineup, such as Endurace, which is basically this bike just stretched differently so that it's friendlier geometry. And then their new gravel bike, you can also see the design cue from this bike carried through the design of the Canyon Grail as well. Kevin's Ultima CF SLX that you see here is probably the previous gen. I think it's either 22 or 23. Doesn't really matter. Does not make the bike any worse because it's a year older. Now it is outfitted with the SRAM Force access, and as far as the SRAM Force, it's basically the same way I feel about why I don't ride Dura Ace and usually opt for Ultegra, because I don't race. Dura Ace is something that you are sponsored. You don't necessarily go by. You want Dura Ace, you don't need Dura Ace. Same token, you want red, you don't need red. So with maybe 150 to 200 gram difference, with the thousands of dollars saved, SRAM Force is a very smart choice. The bike rides on DT Swiss ARC 1450 mil depth front and rear, and boy, DT Swiss 240 hubs. What can go wrong? The bike rolls absolutely phenomenal. The tires are Schwalbe Pro 1 set up tubeless with the, not my favorite, the tan wall. I don't really care for the tan walls because it's impossible to keep them looking clean. The cranks 4835 and then the cassette 1033 on this particular bike. If it was my personal bike, I would have built it 4633 crank because I'm a weak sauce and I need the grainy smaller rings to tackle mountain, but that's just how I like it. The saddle is the Selle Italia Super Flow Boost, whatever, the one that I actually like, but one he's running is the narrower version of the saddle, whereas I prefer the wider version. That's not because I have a big ass. Now, downside of buying from Canyon is this. This was a problem I had back then. This is a problem now. So Canyon figures you want, especially with the integrated cockpit, you just cannot escape. They spec the cockpit with the certain dimensions measurement based on the frame size. It may work for you, it may not work for you. So years ago, when I had my own CF SLX, it came with the 90 mil stem with the 39 centimeter bar. Now, 39 centimeter bar didn't bother me, but the 90 mil stem was no good for me. I actually needed extended a bit. So, I contacted Canyon. Hey, can I get a replacement bar? I will send you this bar. I'm not trying, I won't sell it. I offered everything, but they basically multiple times came back to me and said, no, you're gonna like what we give you and we will not sell you a handlebar. So that really sucked. So and back then their steerer tube was, I think, a non-standard size. So it's not like I could just go out and buy something and throw on there. Although I think that might have changed today. I believe their steerer now is somewhat more standard size, but even that, so that whole thing carries through here. This is a size extra small, which is basically small in every other company's size. Canyon runs a little large. So with that said, this thing came with the 90 mil stem again, and I need longer stem because I'm all torso. Okay, so we've established already that this bike is extra small in Canyon sizing. Normally I ride bikes that have a stack of 520 or so, and then the reach of anywhere from 380 to about 385. This bike comes with the stack of 520 and reach of 378, so I would have really preferred another maybe 10 mil, another 20 mil on the stem to kind of stretch out a little bit. So consequently, I'm sitting a little bit farther back on the bike than I would have liked because of the reach problem. I'm a little bit cramped, if that makes any sense. I would have preferred with my hands a little bit farther out. To give you some context in terms of sizing, I am 5'10", but I'm all torso with the shorter legs in terms of proportions are concerned. So normally I buy bikes as if I'm 5'8". Now, in terms of comparison to other brands, now what I would ride, my Pinarello was 51.5, my Factor was 52, my Specialized Tarmac is 52, my Cannondale Evo is 51, my Orbea was 51, BMC was 51, my Giant is a small, so you get kind of an idea of how the sizing is. As mentioned earlier, design really hasn't changed much at all over the years, and yet the silhouette, the clean lines, the sleek look really still hold up quite well. And then in addition, throw in some aero cues here and there. This is every bit a modern race bike as modern race bike would be. Top tube is sculpted, and then down tube is more or less oval with a slight hint of a truncated foil design. The fork is very slim, and then the junction of the top tube, the C stay, and the C tube, that beefy area, that is a design cue that was prevalent back then, prevalent today, also carried out through other bikes in their lineup. While the bike doesn't really scream any sort of Italian flair, this is per se every bit German as German can be. It's everything you need in a race bike, nothing you don't need. The bottom bracket area isn't overly oversized, but one thing to note is the junction features a thicker, beefier chainstay on the non-drive side than the drive side. So basically where the braking side is, the chainstay is a little bit more oversized. As far as the tire clearance is concerned, let's go back a year. Didn't Matthew Vanderpoel win some kind of a UCI gravel race aboard a Canyon Ultimate just running slightly wider tires? So this bike currently has the Schwalbe Pro 28s mounted to that DT Swiss 1400 wheels, and there's a bunch of room left. You could probably take it up to 32 without a problem. And then the owner, Kevin, couldn't remember where the computer mount, it was a genuine Canyon mount or a third party. But basically, way the computer mount sits, it actually sits as so against the handlebar. It rises a little bit. So by the time you mount the Garmin, Wahoo, Hammerhead, whatever, the computer doesn't sit parallel to the ground. I mean, maybe you don't run it that way anyways. Maybe you have it slightly tilted up. I run mine slightly tilted up if I can, just so that I have a better angle of visibility. But this thing is sitting up like that. So if you are an aero weenie, you may not care for that much. Doesn't matter how a bike looks, it's all about how one rides. If you can believe it, as soon as I mounted it, I felt right at home. And I kind of started to chuckle just alone, just riding within the first mile, because this felt just like the bike that I loved so much back then, my own Ultimate CF SLX. Despite the bike isn't marketed as a all-out aero bike, this bike is absolute pure joy on flat terrain. It is confidence inspiring and rides extremely well. When the road tilts up, this is where absolutely this bike shines. This is its native domain. Bike is extremely well balanced, no motion wasted, incredibly efficient, propels you forward like nobody's business. So on long grueling days is where I really use as a barometer to read a bike. Ultimate CF SLX on mine, as well as this bike, I've taken out on super long rides, and that's where it really shines because of two things. Bike is damn near has perfect geometry, set aside the cockpit issue because of a Canyon's adamant sizing that they generalize. But frame geometry wise, I feel like they really nailed it. And then the balance, if you watched my review video of Cannondale Super 6 Evo, I bitch about how the balance is a little off on that bike. It's very top heavy. This bike, top to bottom, left to right, absolutely perfect in terms of balance. So over a very long day, the bike does not beat you up at all. The round seat post does an excellent job muting everything that's happening under your ass. The front end is absolutely solid. I mean, one of the fondest memories aboard my Ultimate CF SLX was the day some years ago the group went to Mammoth, and it was Tioga Pass, and the day involved something like 120 miles with the 13,500 feet of elevation. I mean, I was hurting, but not because of the bike. I mean, I'm hurting because of the elevation, but the bike performed incredibly well, and my lame ass probably made it that day because I was on that Ultima CF SLX. Hence, it became my favorite bike of all time at that time. All right, so this is the new section that I'm trying, which is the would you rather or would I rather. So this is a portion of the review where I compare this bike against another bike that was under my ownership since the inception of this channel and kind of give you my pick. So we're gonna go in the chronological order. Round 1, BMC Road Machine versus Ultima CF SLX. It doesn't even come close and not even a match. This is a clear winner every way you look at it. Canyon Ultima CF SLX. Round 2, Orbea Orca versus Ultima CF SLX. My love for Orca, for its performance, its value proposition, very well documented here on my channel. Despite how much I love that bike and how much of a bike you're getting for the money, I will go with the Canyon Ultimate because this bike literally has no flaw. Against the Pinarello Prince, every time I have to make a pick between Pinarello Prince versus something else, I feel a little weird because it always feels like it's an apple to an orange. Because this obviously is a race bike that like the Movistar folks and Alpes and de Koenig boys, they race on these things. The Pinarello Prince used to be a race bike, but it's no longer carrying that mantra. Matter of fact, it's been discontinued. So with that said, Prince is more or less, you know, that Italian, it's got those lines and silhouette. A little bit different, but if I have to make a pick, I'll probably take the Canyon Ultimate. Against the Ribble Ultra SLR, which is an all-out aero bike, which I dearly love. That thing is stiff, solid, slightly heavy, but it does not suffer on the climb because it is so stiff. That is an excellent, excellent bike, despite the company that makes it really sucks. Against the Ribble Ultra, I will probably end up taking the Ultima CF SLX because it's lighter by about 3 pounds if built properly. So I would swing that way just so that I'm carrying less heft on those long days if I'm climbing all day. Against the Cervelo Soloist. Soloist versus Canyon Ultimate. Value proposition wise, very similar. Canyon being a direct to consumer, so you do have some value that from there, as well as the Cervelo Soloist is priced really well. With that, and when I say priced well, I recognize that it's still thousands of dollars and it's expensive, but that's the world we live in right now. I mean, we could bitch, but you know, they are putting those price tags on because there are consumers like us that are willing to pay. So with that said, the Soloist versus the Ultimate is really a hard pick. I will have to call that a draw because as I've been saying on this channel, this has been top 3 of favorite all time. Soloist has been top 3 favorite all time. I wouldn't be able to pick, and in other words, you could really pick either one and you would be all right. You would do okay. Neither pick is a wrong pick here. So you could go both ways. Against the Cinelli and Linsky that I have, one's a steel, one's a titanium. This is carbon fiber. Not sure if that's a fair fight. You're appealing to different emotions and different market segments, so not sure if that's an apple to an apple comparison, so I'll skip that one. Against the Cannondale Super 6 Evo that you saw previously, it's a definite winner here. I will take the Canyon Ultimate. The poise and the balance that is evident on Canyon Ultimate over Super 6, this is the winner. Against the Tarmac SL8, Perhaps one might say this is a controversial pick, but I will go with the Canyon Ultimate. Against the Trek Madone, that video is coming, so I'll make my pick there. Against its own brother, Canyon Aeroad, that is also coming, so stay tuned and make sure you subscribe if you want to hear my pick. So Canyon being a direct-to-consumer brand, this is where you could get some value. Now, when I say value, I say that with somewhat of a tongue-in-cheek because bikes are still overpriced and, you know, we're talking thousands of dollars here. So who's to say thousands of dollar bike is a good value? But what I'm talking about is if you spec a Canyon bike identically to another brand, you will typically see some savings. Now, case in point, and slightly different way to look at it, a friend of mine just picked up a Canyon refurbished. Now, Canyon refurbished shouldn't be overlooked. It's just like Apple refurbished products that Apple directly sell. Now, Canyon won't let you return a refurbished bike that you buy, but I believe they still honor all the warranties and stuff. When you get it out of the box, you can't tell that it was a, you know, not a brand new bike because it comes looking like it's brand new. And then there's tremendous value to be had. Case in point, like I said, my buddy bought a refurbished Canyon Ultimate CF SLX that's got Shimano Di2 12-speed, rolling on DT Swiss 1100 wheels. Top of the line group set, top of the line wheels. So basically those two alone would be $6,000 brand new. Now, so this is like buy the group set, buy the wheels, and get the frame and everything else for free, kind of a deal. So I think that, I mean, that's an incredible value for, you know, under $6,000 to walk out with a bike wearing DT Swiss 1100 plus Dura Ace. Get the hell out of here. Two words that I can surmise this bike with. One is balance. The bike is just a marvel in design and engineering in terms of balance is concerned. What an astonishingly great bike to ride. Second word that I would like to use is poised. This bike is just so poised. I mean, you as a rider, you feel confident on it, and that's what, you know, what matters, right? If you're slicing a corner, you want to have that confidence in its ability to steer and the sharp handling. The bike's ability to climb because of its geometry, where it puts you as a rider on top of it, and when you are just tucked in, head down, and just hammering the bike, just puts you in that position. Despite not being a full-on aero bike, it does actually do a fantastic job holding speed. I mean, really nothing really to fault here, other than the stupid dimensions of components that you can't customize. The lines are clean, bike is light, it rides like a champ, but what the hell do you want more from your bike? I don't know. This honestly is a bike that I should have never parted ways with. I regretted it when I was selling it. I regretted it after I sold it. I regretted it after I had a chance to put down a bunch of miles on this loaner from my friend. This is a bike that should be seriously considered for anyone looking for all-around, all-purpose, go-fast rocket. It will not do you wrong. Okay, well, that's it for this episode. I hope my rambling didn't bore you. If you stuck around until this point of the video, I thank you. You have a ton of patience. I've been Diabetic Cycling. You've been awesome. Keep the rubber side down. Be safe out there, guys. Until next time, be good humans. DC out.